Hi, my name is Lisa McKay, Lisa-Mackay. I'm a lifelong resident of Yorktown. I am making these comments under protest. FERC's approval process and draft environmental impact statement, the DEIS, are fundamentally flawed, and I demand that the DEIS be withdrawn and that a supplemental draft environmental impact statement be submitted for public review only after all relevant parties have submitted all necessary information. Today I wanted to speak about the DES Section 4.13 cumulative impacts regarding the Atlantic Bridge project, which will now involve the expansion of the existing pipeline through the rest of Yorktown. As a clear record exists indicating that Spectra has already begun planning the Atlantic Bridge project, I request that the potential impacts from this project also be included in the AIM DEIS. This same pipeline crosses all of Yorktown, but Spectra has broken up this full pipeline expansion into two phases, which is a clear example of illegal segmentation. The AIM project ends at Stony Street, and the Atlantic project begins right at Stony Street, the same pipe. They have already surveyed the area for the Atlantic Bridge project. In fact, they will be holding their first landowner informational meeting in Yorktown on September 29th. How is this not a clear example of segmentation when the second phase has started before the first phase is even approved? Looking at these two phases separately is not only illegal but wrong. Separating them does not allow an adequate assessment of the combined overall health, environmental, and safety risks and impacts on our community in their totality. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Charles Ford, CHARLESFORD. Proud member of Laborers Local 754, Rockland County. This pipeline, I think, is really, should come through here because it's falling apart, the one that's there now, and like much of the infrastructure in this country. And it's going to be good for the economy. It's going to be good for all of us working on it. We're not here to destroy anyone's community or yard or anyone's home. We all live here too. We're not like they said earlier, we're not some kind of, import workers from, Europe or, wherever, Canada or Syracuse. We're all local people, and we're trying to make a living and work with you guys and work with communities and keep everyone safe. We're sent to all kinds of classes, safety training, and all kinds of training, and OSHA, and we're trying to work safe. Union workers, we're all united. We all work together. We're not fly-by-night company or people that are animals or we're trying to work safely and keep you guys safe, and as a whole, we just want to better the community. And without this pipeline, without pipelines like it, there's no lights, there's no power, it's an affordable energy source, and I think it should be upgraded. That's all I have to say.
Okay, number 44. 49.
Hi, my name is Frank Muscolo. That's FRANKMUSCOLO. A longtime resident of the hamlet of Plank. And I'm making these comments under protest. FERC's approval process and the draft environmental impact statement are fundamentally flawed, and I demand that the DEIS be withdrawn and that a supplemental draft environmental impact statement be submitted for public review only after all the relevant parties have submitted all necessary information. Some of the points that resonate with me tonight, listening to a lot of people who've done a lot more research than I have been basically the lack of adequate critical details provided by this private enterprise at this stage of this process, of this proposal. The multitude of risks to air, water, and clearly our lives are at stake. Basically the compounding of risks of putting this massive project around a nuclear power plant and a couple of geologic fault lines. The exposure of real catastrophe, not only to accident, but to terrorism. I could see this area being a big bullseye down the road with these higher risks in place. Another thing that resonates is the unity of all of the communities and towns' leadership relating to this project after they did their independent assessment. Along with the higher capacity and the higher pressure that comes along with this pipeline, there's a compounding of risk which takes place, exposing our communities and many others beyond us to catastrophic accident. As I read and listen to the substantial increases in capacity and the size of this massive pipe, one thing kind of resonates in my mind from a movie, and that is a chain is no stronger than its weakest link. And I see catastrophe down the road as a result of this. Thank you.
47.
Have like eyes on deck. A lot of us started winter now at the break, so that's 48, 49, 50. Come on down.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Anderson, Lisa-Anderson. I am the mother of 5 children, and I live in Cortlandt NY. I'm also the co-president of the Parent Teachers Association at my children's elementary school. And I have children scattered throughout the Hendrick-Hudson School District also. I just wanted to stand up here before you today to say that I echo the sentiments that have been expressed by Ms. Courtney Williams and also by Linda Puglisi, our supervisor for the town of Cortland. The parents at my school are very concerned about the proximity of this pipeline to one of our schools in our school district, Algonquin Incremental Markets. The potential for difficulty is just too great. I mean, I don't want anybody to have to be concerned that their children playing outside in the playground are going to be blown up by a pipeline. The proximity to Indian Point is also a great concern to our parents as well. The eminent domain rules that could apply to the properties where the pipeline could go through our backyards and the property could be seized. That's another great concern to our parents. We would like to request that a risk analysis be performed, an independent risk analysis study, that the independent health assessment, impact assessment also be taken care of, that the air quality assessments also be done too, and that we be informed of the results of these things. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is, first of all, let me thank you for holding this public hearing, and I appreciate, all the public should appreciate everybody coming out to listen to everybody and trying to learn about this project. My name is James Bacon, James-Bacon. I'm an attorney representing the Community Watersheds Clean Water Coalition, Advocates for Clean Water. We're concerned with the project's impacts on the watershed from milepost 10 to 12.3 at Stony Street in Yorktown. The Croton provides 10% of the drinking water for 9 million New Yorkers. Unfortunately, these waters violate state water quality standards for too much phosphorus, which causes odor, taste, and color problems. As a result, the Clean Water Act requires Croton's towns to reduce annual phosphorus loadings by thousands of pounds. Our engineer is Raul Verma, who is the executive director for the East Hudson Watershed Corporation, charged with installing stormwater retrofits. These retrofits cost $40,000 to remove 1 pound of phosphorus, not including operation maintenance, so an ounce of prevention is worth far more than a pound of cure. We've analyzed the DEIS and find it fundamentally deficient in disclosing impacts to wetlands, water quality, and endangered species. Wetlands act as sinks and transformers of phosphorus. The Croton pipeline segment will excavate almost 17,000 cubic yards of wetlands, enough to fill this room to a depth of 60 feet. Excavation will release and resuspend significant amounts of phosphorus into the Hunter Brook and the new Croton, yet the DEIS does not include a pollutant loading analysis at all on this subject. Moreover, our wetland scientist, Dr. Eric Kiviat of Hudsonia, found 7 locations where the DEIS failed to delineate or under-delineated wetlands between milepost 10 and 12.3. Kiviat also identified endangered species at 2 locations missed in the DEIS and determined that the DEIS's endangered species surveys are incomplete. Now, at the heart of the NEPA, is the alternatives analysis, and the Clean Water Act presumes that alternatives are available to avoid wetlands impacts. However, there is no DEIS alternative that avoids the Croton, either by moving the Stony Street terminus west or varying the PSI. Now, considering the new compressor unit in Rockland County will be an increase by 50% to 15,000 horsepower, it's reasonable to consider moving the Stony Street terminus out of the watershed, especially because the proposed 850 PSI is far below the industry maximum of 1,500 PSI. Finally, NEPA requires analysis of cumulative impacts. The Atlantic Bridge's impacts on the Croton must be examined along with the current project. The Atlantic project proposes to extend the pipeline another 4.1 miles into the watershed east from Stony Street, impacting an additional 1.5 miles of wetlands and wetland buffers, and excavation thousands of additional cubic yards of soils. If the Croton is not avoided, a supplemental review must examine the cumulative impact on the Croton from the disturbance of a total of 6.4 miles of pipeline replacement, which, given a 75-foot right-of-way, would disturb 75 acres within the Croton. For these reasons, an SEIS is required under NEPA. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jessica Roth. It's Jessica-Roff. I'm a fourth-generation New Yorker and an organizer for New Yorkers Against Fracking. I'm also making my statements under protest. FERC's approval process and DEIS are fundamentally flawed, and I demand the DEIS be withdrawn and that a supplemental DES be submitted for public review only after all relevant parties have submitted the necessary information. So, I want to talk quickly about the dichotomy of jobs versus the environment, the false one that the gas industry has created in order to divide us from you. This is a conquer tactic, and we all know it works. We all want jobs. Trust me, I was unemployed for a very long time. I also want jobs. But we don't want any job. We don't believe that any job is a good job just because it exists. We respect our fellow New Yorkers far more than that, and so should our government. What we want are safe jobs, local jobs, jobs that create green, clean, sustainable energy, that bring it, transport it, and produce it. What we want are the local jobs that stay, not the few jobs that the gas industry pretends are going to be for local workers that are actually always exaggerated in their numbers and will trample your rights and put you in harm's way in the process. I heard you all saying at the beginning that we say you all aren't from here and that you don't get those jobs. That's not what we say. What we say are the jobs aren't for here. They don't care about you. Those jobs are actually for foreign workers or for workers from out of state. I have spoken with the workers that are building the Rockaway Lateral Pipeline. They are from Montana and Minnesota. They are staying outside of Brooklyn in New Jersey and in Long Island. They do not bring local jobs. They do not bring local money. They do not bring local economic development. That is a huge problem. And there's been a lot of discussion about the safety of the pipelines and the safety of compressor stations and complying with laws. The issue here is that both pipelines and compressor stations are fundamentally problematic. They are flawed. They are inherently dangerous products. They carry inherently dangerous products to us. It doesn't matter how safely they are operated. It doesn't matter if they're in compliance with the law, which, by the way, they are not. Spectra has so many violations. The fact that they're even allowed to apply for more permits is reprehensible. The fact of the matter is they don't operate safely even when they follow the law. I know people that live across the street from compressor stations. They are sick. There are many dangerous fumes and gases that are constantly being emitted. They are things like benzene, hydrocarbons, volatile organic hydrocarbons, ethane, propane, butane, pentane, methane, nitrogen oxide, and ground level ozone. These are highly dangerous. They cause all kinds of upper respiratory problems, nosebleeds, rashes, everything else. Also, the pipelines themselves explode. They pick up the radioactive material. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to say really quickly, New York hasn't decided if it wants to frack and outside forces are bringing us in. It's time for you to understand that the project won't bring New York and its workers the clean, safe energy future that we deserve. Instead, AIM will handcuff us to a future of fossil fuel, which will poison our communities, further pushing us into the climate chaos that we are experiencing right now. I urge you to change your pattern, FERC. Do something bold. Stop rubber stamping permits. Instead of approving 98% of fossil fuel infrastructure projects, stand up for the people of New York. You deserve it, and we deserve it.
So the rest of you 50s, come on closer.
So my name is Tatiana Komin, Tatyana, and last name Komin. I live in New Rochelle with my husband, but my 3 grandchildren live in Somers. That's why I'm here. And I want to talk, I'm giving you a few statements. So nobody talked about the cost of this project. Project cost $971.5 million. So who will pay this money to Spectra? We, taxpayers. So we pay our tax money for our unsafety and unhealth and for our sickness. And yes, also I want to say that Westchester has the highest, I don't know if you are from Westchester, but Westchester pays the highest property taxes. So it's also a big consideration for us. A lot of speakers before me talked about safety, about safety of Indian Point, and first of all, nuclear plant cannot coexist with pipeline station, just natural, because pipeline stations, unfortunately, very unsafe. They often have accidents, like Spectra has many violations. Everybody knows about this. But what I want to talk about it, even for the current pipeline, 26 inches, was not done proper risk assessment, was not done evaluation, and NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, must actually give you some assessment before you consider something else, anything else. So NRC with energy has to has to make risk assessment, and without it you cannot consider anything. So no, actually everybody wants it. So what else? Okay.
I want to thank you for the opportunity and for having the hearing. My name is Alex Beecham. I'll spell it. It's Beauchamp. I'm the Northeast Region Director at Food and Water Watch. We're a national consumer rights nonprofit with over 65,000 supporters here in the state of New York. Simply put, the DEIS is fatally flawed and must be withdrawn. Others have rightly pointed out many of these flaws. I want to focus on the lack of analysis of what impact the project would have on natural gas development and on the Catskill Aqueduct crossing. The National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, requires a full analysis of a project's impacts, whether direct, indirect, or cumulative. Yet, the DEIS omits any substantive discussion of foreseeable gas development, concluding without discussion that the resources that may be affected by the Marcellus Shale development would not be affected by the project, and that the project would not be affected by the development in the Marcellus region. The DEIS completely fails to address the indirect impacts of induced gas development and fails to consider how the environmental impacts of the proposed project may be accumulated with the impacts of gas development in the region. The complete absence of analysis around the indirect or cumulative impacts of the project on natural gas development has clearly deprived the public of a meaningful opportunity to comment on the proposed project. A revised DEIS must be prepared for review and public comment to analyze any potential impact the project would have on natural gas development in the region. Likewise, the DEIS also fails to address potential impacts on the Catskill Aqueduct. The proposed Stony Point to Yorktown take-up and relay segment of the proposed project plans to cross the Catskill Aqueduct, a vital part of the New York City water supply system. To date, Algonquin has not finalized its site-specific plan for crossing the Catskill Aqueduct and is still in consultation with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection regarding the crossing and evaluating an alternative route that would relocate the segment to the south. Algonquin's failure to finalize any site-specific plan for crossing the Catskill Aqueduct has deprived the public of a meaningful opportunity to comment on the proposed project. Given the obvious importance of the Catskill Aqueduct to millions of New Yorkers that rely on it for drinking water every day, the public must be allowed to comment on this piece of the project. A revised DEIS must be prepared for review, public comment, to fully examine the extent of any impacts on the Catskill Aqueduct. I'll close by saying, as many others tonight have, the DEIS is fatally flawed and it must be withdrawn. I urge the Commission to withdraw the DEIS, address all outstanding issues, and issue a supplemental DEIS, which then must be submitted for a 90-day public comment period. Thanks again.
Good evening, my name is Ellen Weininger, ELLEN-WEININGER. I am the Director of Education Outreach for Grassroots Environmental Education, a science-based environmental health nonprofit. FERC's conclusion that the project will have no significant environmental impacts is baseless, evidenced by the premature draft EIS with numerous missing studies and documents. It must be withdrawn, required studies completed, and documents submitted, including independent and transparent baseline testing, health impact assessment, cumulative risk assessment as outlined in the Westchester County resolution. A complete supplemental EIS must be prepared and reissued with a new public comment period. We were just told earlier that the decision for this project rests entirely with the FERC commissioners. How and when do the commissioners make those decisions? Do they review all the documents, including all public comments? Public comments come from informed residents and experts in science, engineering, medicine, economics, law, nuclear power, and pipelines. If the draft EIS has already prematurely concluded that the AIM project will have no significant environmental impacts, have the commissioners already come to that same unsupportable conclusion? Is this whole public comment process an exercise in futility? If the decision is already made before all the information and necessary assessments are conducted. Despite federal regulations requiring risk analysis for new hazard near Indian Point, no such risk assessment has been conducted, and we know that there are many new structures. In the early 1960s, when the first nuclear reactor was constructed next to the existing Algonquin pipelines that were built in 1953, the regulatory framework did not exist. Reactor 1 was closed in the 70s, and Reactor 2 and 3 were proposed. By then, federal regulations were in place requiring a risk assessment, but it was never done, and the responsible agencies looked the other way. This is the only nuclear power plant in the country sited next to natural gas pipelines. Now, 40 years later, federal regs are still in place, but the number of hazards has increased exceedingly close proximity to Indian Point. What's the tipping point? How many hazards, each significant in their own right, does it take before basic common sense prevails, proportionary measures are taken, and federally required risk analyses are conducted in an independent, transparent fashion before any decisions are made about this permitting process? There are many peer-reviewed studies. I will actually end, since my time looks like it's running out, that consumers don't want to be sold a discontinued model. The people of the Northeast do not want to be a sacrifice zone for the exports that this pipeline is actually aiming for. FERC has to get it right the first time, not look the other way, as has happened years ago when the Indian Point Reactor 2 and 3 were proposed and constructed. Lives are on the line, and so is our future. Thank you.
And I encourage all those who hold tickets in the 60s, please come up and be ready to speak.
Thank you for having this session. I'm Jonathan Fine, Jonathan Fein. I have a house near the Blue Mountain Reservation. A half-century ago, we didn't have the awareness of the effects of human actions on the well-being of the environment, and we didn't have regulations aimed to protect natural spaces. If a company today proposed to tear up a forest to install a pipeline, it would not be allowed. So why should we allow them to bisect the Blue Mountain Reservation in order to expand one that exists there? Each year, scientists are discovering how little we know of complex interactions with food webs in the ecosystem, microclimates, and the delicate interdependence of life forms. Actions which in the past have been thought to be remediatable may turn out to be irreversible and have far-ranging ramifications. Climate change has altered the equations which in the past have informed decisions such as this. The EIS in Section 3 discounts the ability of energy conservation and renewable energy sources to meet the energy desires of the Northeast within the, quote, time frame of the proposed project. Perhaps in light of the possible serious, irreversible harms that this project may bring about, this arbitrary time frame should be set aside, as alternatives are better developed and assessed. We must be wise, thoughtful, and careful before we allow potentially damaging actions to take place.
Hello, how are you? My name is Richard Reach. I'm here to read this statement on behalf of Stephen Reach, the business manager for Labor's Local 754. I would like to express both my personal support and the support of... Yes, Richard Reach, R-E-I-C-H. Reading the statement for Stephen Reach, R-E-I-C-H, the business manager of Local 754. I would like to express both my personal support and the support of the local I represent for Spectra Energy's Algonquin Incremental Market Share project. This project will create thousands of man-hours for men and women in the Hudson Valley who rely on these jobs to support their families and pay their taxes. The last part of this project in Rockland resulted in 50,000 man-hours for Local 754 alone. These are high-paying jobs with solid union benefits. Spectra Energy has proven over and over again that they operate safely in the Hudson Valley. They have been here for over 50 years, operating pipelines without any incidents. So much misinformation has been released by some opponents to the project, but here are the facts. Over 90% of the project will occur on the existing right-of-way, one with an active pipeline already operating. Common sense tells us that replacing older pipeline with new pipeline can only improve safety. New technology and designs at the Southeast and Stony Point compressor stations will reduce emissions. Spectra has met or exceeded all federal safety standards. The completed project will result in more tax revenue for all taxing authorities within its range. There is no negative impact on homeowner values anywhere by this pipeline, and property insurance is not affected by gas line pipeline proximity. Directional boring technology will be used for the river crossing to minimize all river environmental impacts. Directional boring is not fracking. There are two completely different processes. One blatant misrepresentation I have read on many anti-pipeline websites. Independent studies have shown that there is no seismic risk involved on the project's right-of-way. Alternate routes have been evaluated and proposed routes have been adjusted to meet all stakeholder concerns. This expansion will make gas available to our fellow countrymen in New England region who are hit with gas prices much higher than us due to capacity shortages during extreme cold weather events. Events like last winter's polar vortex that would have cost us all in this room so much more if it was not for Spectra's latest New York, New Jersey expansion. Rockland and Westchester will have more gas to draw from our business growth and inevitably switch from gasoline-powered engines to natural gas-powered engines due to environmental, economic, and national concerns. This work will be done by professionals who are experts in handling any hazards and know how to minimize all risks associated with the work. Spectra has shown they are willing to address individual property holders' concerns and will continue to do so with an emphasis on working out acceptable compromises at their own expense. These are facts that can be seen in the DEIS and are not fabrications. Spectra's offers to develop ball fields for Yorktown was insanely rejected and now becomes a taxpayer burden. On that, it is added to the tax system that we all know is overburdened already. All one has to do is work on one of Spectra's pipeline jobs, and you will see how strict they are with safety, environmental, and community agreements that they make. It is time for the misrepresentation of the facts to stop and take advantage of the opportunity projects like this one that bring to our communities our state. We need this Thank you very much.
67, Tom Johnson, T-O-M-J-O-H-N-S-O-N. I want to thank you for staying here so late tonight listening to us talk about this project. I am for natural gas pipelines. I am for union guys who build natural gas pipelines. I invest in them. I own them in my retirement account. A lot of my clients own them. They're very profitable. They're good for the economy. So you're probably asking yourself right now, why is he wearing that red shirt that says Stop the Algonquin Pipeline Extension? Well, location, location, location. When they started telling us all about this, they were just going to be in the existing right-of-way. It was their prerogative to build there. They were going to pull up old, decrepit pipeline and replace it with safer new pipeline. Then we start finding out it's a larger pipeline. Then we start figuring out it's to sell gas overseas. Well, you know something, I'm for that too. I would like to promote unions here and break the back of the reemergence of the Soviet Union by selling gas to our NATO allies. However, what we should not do is give Spectra the cheapest, most possible way to get from point A to point B. It would appear from the little bit of research I've done is that when the CEO of Spectra talked to the CEO of Entergy, they didn't come to terms on running it 100% in their right-of-way. So they decided they would do a little diversion and find another way. And to their hope and surprise, it was even a cheaper way. It's less expensive, more profitable. Well, that's not our job, and quite frankly, that's not your job, to make them more profitable. They should go the safest possible way. Did they really look? Did they look? Well, according to Sept, who I trust impeccably, he's my neighbor and friend, they said this is only impact a handful of houses. Well, you must be shocked to see a lot more than a handful of us here tonight. Putting it right next to a school, that makes no sense. It would never be next to the school of the CEO of Spectra's grandkids, I guarantee you that. You know, it's just, they didn't do their work. They forward you incomplete data, maybe even fictitious data, and you know, it's their job to make a profit. It's the union guy's job to make it safe. What's our job? Our job is to make sure everyone else is doing their job. And nobody's doing the old lie of omission, leaving things out, not telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I'm going to close on this thought. Let's just say the pipeline, as they want it built, in this new area, as well as the old area, was already there. It's already in the ground. It's 46 inches wide. Would they let us build a school right near it? Probably not. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
You're seeing a pattern here, right? If you're in the 70s, maybe early 80s, make your way on down the front.
Good evening. My name is Kenny Lewis. That's Kenny, Lewis, and I'm a proud member of Labor's International Union, North America, Local 754. Laborers are highly trained, skilled, and experienced construction professionals, and we are committed to safe and responsible development and infrastructure. Spectra Energy has been operating to the Algonquin gas transmission line safely in the Hudson Valley region since the early 1950s without incident. The AIM project is designed to be responsibly and effectively expanded with minimal impacts on the communities and the environment. The AIM project will also create tens of millions of dollars of new tax revenue for our townships and counties to be used for schools and our communities. The AIM project will bring reliable, abundant supplies of clean, domestic, economical, natural gas to the Northeast, helping our business and residents keep their heating bills low and power on during frigid winter sessions like last year's polar vortex. Elected officials in the Northeast, including New York, have supported policies to address climate change and air pollution, including supporting the conversion of the heating oil to natural gas that results in less pollution. The AIM project supports these policies and that a breath of fresh air for New York. Lyona, Local 754, and I urge FERC to approve Spectra Energy's application for the AIM project to allow this essential energy infrastructure project to proceed and give us the opportunity to get back to work. Thank you very much.
74, 75, 76. Okay, you're up. You're at 77.
Hello, my name is Susan Filgaris, Filgueras, and I am from Rockland County. And I am also one of those people who has the potential to be affected physically by the transmission line. I live exactly 666 feet north, downhill from the transmission line. The line will be built on ledge, and in order to get the line through the ledge, even though they're digging up the existing line, they will use hammer jacks and blasting techniques. They could affect my well. And for those of you with wells and septics, you know that if you do not have potable water, your home can be condemned. The bank can call your mortgage. I have a letter from one of my other neighbors to that effect, and I'm going to go on to my bigger point standing here. I've heard from the unions, I've heard the technical, we've heard an awful lot. How about the cumulative effects of the Spectra 42-inch gas pipeline? On the back of the testimony I submitted in the back of the room is a map. And in Rockland County, where the infrastructure will be, the Spectra 42-inch pipeline is slated to come out somewhere in front of the Lovett Power Plant. That is in the direct trajectory of the Ramapo double fault line. Added to that is a little project called the Champlain-Hudson Power Express, a 1,000 megawatt transmission line that's going to run down the river. It's hot in temperature. The plan is to lay that transmission line on top of the 3 existing 21, 24, and 36-inch natural gas high-pressure pipelines. And there's been no discussion of how that will happen. On the front of my testimony is a picture of something they call a grapnel. It looks like a ship's anchor. The Champlain Hudson Power Express will drag the ship's anchor through the river over those 3 high-pressure gas pipes so that they can lay their 1,000 megawatts of hot power. Now, that's bad enough, but we have the CSX $26 million expansion, which will be moving Bakken crude up and down the northeast coast. Hundreds of thousands of gallons daily. They're running much heavier at night, so the trains can't be counted. So now I have 3 existing high-volume transportation pipes going across the river on top of the Ramapo Fault. We're going to put a 42-inch in the ground right next to them. We're going to lay 1,000 megawatts of hot power on top of them, and we're going to transport millions, hundreds of millions of gallons of Bakken crude on top of it. Can I ask if anybody's got a match? Because that's what's going to happen to Rockland County. I would ask that this commission please take it. Here's my testimony.
And someone turned in 87, by the way. My name is Karen Wells, W-E-L-L-S, and I am here representing United Communities of Westchester. And with me, I have a sign that is over 10 years old. It serves as a reminder to FERC, the Millennium Pipeline. This is a pipeline which FERC authorized in a process much like you're going through today. That pipeline was rejected by the Secretary of Commerce after years in court proving that the FERC process was inadequate then, and we will prove once again that the process is inadequate now. The DEIS should get an F. It is incomplete. It is not only incomplete, it is filled with lapses in judgment and sustainable use of metrics. There was a question earlier about, is FERC the final decision maker here? FERC is the final regulatory decision. However, the process will continue into the courts if this is authorized, because FERC is not living up to its obligations to recognize the issues around national security, around segmentation, around environmental injustice, not to mention the numerous environmental issues that several people have brought before you in their comments back to you in both written form and speaking this evening. So I ask you to remember that it is easier to do your job well the first time than to have all of us continue to pay legal fees, continue to spend our free time trying to get redress for a job not done properly. Thank you.
So good evening, and thank you for bearing with us tonight. My name is Misty Duval, M-I-S-T-I-D-U-V-A-L-L. I'm a staff attorney with River Keeper, and I want to thank you again for the opportunity to present our initial comments on the AIM project DEIS tonight. We are currently reviewing the DEIS and associated documents and will be submitting detailed written comments by the end of the comment period. Riverkeeper is a member-supported watchdog organization dedicated to defending the Hudson River and its tributaries and protecting the drinking water supply of 9 million New York City and Hudson Valley residents. We are also actively involved in litigation, advocacy, and public education surrounding the issue of shale gas extraction and risk-related infrastructure, particularly because of the potential impacts on New York State's drinking water supplies. In New York State, the entire AIM project expansion is located within the Hudson River and its watershed and the New York City drinking water supply watershed. Protection of both these resources is central to our mission. You've heard testimony regarding several important issues tonight, so I'll keep my comments brief. Riverkeeper is particularly concerned about the potential of the AIM project to adversely impact water quality in the Hudson River and its watershed and the New York City drinking water supply watershed. Portions of the proposed project are within the sensitive Croton watershed, part of the east of Hudson, New York City watershed, and of significant concern is drinking water supply reservoirs in the Croton watershed are currently impaired and require careful protection in order to avoid further degradation. Potential impacts include stormwater runoff, which can carry pollutants into water supplies, degradation of wetlands and buffer areas, damaged water bodies during trench crossing and blasting, as well as cumulative impacts within each watershed. As others have noted, several pieces of information necessary to evaluate water quality and other impacts and plan mitigation are missing from the DEIS or have not been properly evaluated. For example, the list of recommended mitigation in the DEIS includes dozens of requests for submission of additional information. This flies in the face of NEPA and undermines the purpose of the DEIS, which is to present and evaluate potential environmental impacts and mitigation measures and provide an opportunity for public review and comment. That can't be done on missing information. The missing information must therefore be provided and the DEIS reissued for public review and comment. We also want to second earlier comments about the Atlantic Bridge project, which must also be included in the environmental review. Thank you.
So 88, 89.
My name is William Houston, H-U-S-T-O-N. I want to talk about risk assessment. So there's the calculation for a high consequence area actually involves a lot of variables, but it can be boiled down to two: class and potential impact radius. The big problems with this is that the class calculation only considers 660 feet to either side of the right-of-way. This is especially for the representative from PIMSA here. And the part that really concerns me about this project is the calculation for the the potential impact radius is really wrong. And there have been, I know PIMSA is aware of this problem because there's been public hearings about this. Just to give you some examples, in San Bruno, here's a picture of San Bruno so the audience can see it, went kerblamo, 36 homes were destroyed. The potential impact radius was off from the actual impact radius by a factor of 2.5. The predicted was, anyway, it was 1,000 foot, over 1,000 foot impact radius. Cleburne, Texas, it was a 36, by the way, San Bruno was a 30-inch pipeline. This is a 42. Cleburne, Texas, was a 36-inch pipeline. It had a 1,400 foot impact radius. So here's what I did. I took the map of the pipeline, and in yellow here is the predicted PIR. This is the federal formula. The predicted impact radius, if we move that along the whole pipeline, it is grossly deficient. If we expand it out to 1,400 feet,
which is Cleburne, Texas, or 2.5 times, which is San Bruno, we can see that the Indian Point nuclear power plant is 50% engulfed with flames. That's a serious problem. As I was looking at this, researching this project, I discovered the existing pipelines under the Indian Point, and I just think that that is an extremely serious problem because this doesn't even look at the existing pipelines. Upstream impacts, 313 families have contaminated water in Susquehanna County, where this pipeline will originate the gas from. Downstream impacts, radon gas in New York City. You've been hearing this over and over again in many different FERC projects. Project segmentation, illegal under NEPA. You were ordered by a federal court not to segment projects, and it seems like that you still are segmenting projects. I'm just wondering, is FERC a rogue agency, or do you follow the law? Do you follow the law?
Okay, when the 90s go, so we've got a 90s ticket. Come closer, please. 90, 91.
Hi, Erin Lowy, ERINLOWY. I'm here as a concerned citizen regarding Spectra Energy's expansion project of its Algonquin Incremental Market natural gas pipeline. I have lived in Westchester County my whole life and began raising a family at Peekskill 6.5 years ago. We moved to our neighborhood of Lealock Park because we loved that it was family-oriented and idyllic, located in the wonderful Hendrick Hudson School District. In recent months, I have learned about the proposal and have grown more and more distressed with each detail I learn. Now I fear for the health and safety of my family and neighbors due to this unnecessary expansion. In addition to the school district I'm so proud of may disintegrate as residents in our area leave because of this. The health and safety risks are unfathomable, emitting dangerous and harmful chemicals into the air and ground, exposing themselves to people, animals, and water supplies. This project will disturb delicate infrastructure in and around residential neighborhoods, playgrounds and parks, houses of worship, businesses, fault lines, and our red volatile Indian Point, as well as be only 450 feet from my son's beloved elementary school, Buchanan, where he is a first grader and my daughter is to start kindergarten next fall. We don't deserve this. I didn't move to this area to raise my family living in fear. Now my family may leave the area if this proposal passes, if selling our home is even possible. It is unacceptable and irresponsible. We the citizens are now asking you to do what you were appointed to do, be our voice and stand up for us. Call for comprehensive, independent, and transparent assessments of Spectra Energy's AIM pipeline expansion project, fully addressing all impacts and including baseline air testing, a risk assessment, a state environmental quality review, and a health impact assessment before approving this project. Thank you.
I have 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, okay, 100, 101. Are you 101? Or what is it? Well, okay. 2, 3, 4 are needs to be 105 or 106. Okay, you're right.
Good evening. My name is Joe Schneider, SCHNEIDER. I am the training director for Local 137 right here in Montrose. I've heard of a lot of discussion tonight, and I don't want to go over, beat a dead horse, as to speak. I look around here, I think I'm probably the last speaker, and if you look at it, I think I'm kind of by myself here, but I find a couple things ironic. Our members are now putting a gas line up through Watch Hill Road going into a new development. And we hear, about, natural gas. Where is the natural gas going to come from for the future? My father worked on the pipeline that came through the town of Yorktown, where I'm a lifelong resident years ago. I sat on his lap every Saturday. I walked there, I rode my bike there, and watched him build that pipeline. Like myself, getting old and run down, so is the pipeline. I can't guarantee what's going to happen to, where this line is going to go. I will say this, though. My members, the members of Local 60 that were here in force tonight, we train, all right? I send members to learn how to run these pipelines all over the country, all right? What I'm going to say to you is, if this pipeline either has to be repaired, removed, or a new one is put in, Local 137, Local 60 are going to do everything they can to protect these people in these neighborhoods, no matter where it goes. And that's all I have to say. Good night. Thank you.
Someone in the back, I'm going to read it. That was my last speaker. You have a ticket? If you don't have a ticket, you're the last speaker.
Good evening. My name is Amy Sacconi Cavalieri. That's C as in Charles, E-C-O-N-I hyphen C as in Charles, A, V as in Victor, A-L-I-E-R-I. On behalf of the Hendrick Hudson High School parents, I would like to present this petition in opposition to the Spectre pipeline expansion. 40 parents were unable to attend tonight's hearing due to back-to-school night and wish to express their concerns and request that further environmental impact studies are completed before any approvals are granted. Thank you.
That being our last speaker, the formal part of our meeting will close. I'm going to remind everyone that, for those of you who are left, within FERC, there's a website, www.ferc.gov. There's a link for e-library. You can type in the docket number, CP 14-96. You can use e-library to gain access to everything on the record for this project. That is everything that has been filed by Algonquin, everything that has been issued by FERC staff, anybody, every comment that has been made by the public or any other agency. After a few weeks, the transcripts for this meeting will be placed on the public record. However, if you would like to receive copies of the transcription before our posting, they will be available at a cost through the court reporter. Please see him if you are interested. On behalf of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. Let the record show that the meeting concluded at 10:39 p.m.
Let me back up a minute.